Apple TV Plus's sweeping 18th century war epic Chief of War, Jason Momoa and Thomas Pa Sibbitt showcased the unification and colonization of Hawaii, a nearly 30-year-long enterprise whose ramifications are still widely felt today. Stunning, historical, and with acute attention to detail, this series is about the greed of men, a crushing power obsession, and the brutality of war. This story, which took a decade to bring to the small screen, begins with a prophecy. Long before Hawaii became the unified state it is now, it consisted of 4 different kingdoms. Oahu, Maui, Kauai, and the Big Island of Hawaii were all joined by water but divided by greedy men, cunning chiefs, and a cycle of endless combat. However, a prophecy foretold of a great king who would come forth to unite all of the islands and end the needless fighting. As the show opens, the audience is introduced to Kaiana. The son of a great Maui warrior and a magnificent fighter in his own right, Kaiana finds no solace in bloodshed. In order to hide out in Kauai, another kingdom, with his family, his wife Kupui, Kupui's sister Heke, and fellow warriors Namek and Naki, Kaiana left his army and his king, Kaikili. Throughout Chief of War Episode 1, Kaiana's motivations for going rogue are hinted at. In conclusion, Kaikili is a self-centered, belligerent monster who only wants to ensure his own greatness. Kaiana became weary of him, particularly when his unending conquests claimed her father's life. Because of this, he is hesitant to return to Maui, even when Kaikili calls him for a meeting that is obviously important. But he eventually gives in out of obligation, which swiftly devolves into a great deal of complete chaos. King Kaikili sets out the specifics after ruining Nui, the new top warrior, for essentially no other purpose than to prove Kaiana's tough guy credentials. The seers predict that Maui would eventually fall under the power of the kingdom of Oahu, which, although it only has a meat boy king named Hana, is planning an invasion of Maui under the covert direction of a cunning high priest. Furthermore, it is strongly hinted that Kaiana's accompanying him is not for the good of Kaikili, but rather of all the islands, as the seers specifically highlighted him as being essential to the realization of an old prophecy. Since Kaiana isn't persuaded, Kaikili meets with him in secret to demonstrate how the Oahu high priest desecrated his father's bones. Additionally, Kaiana communicates with Tala, a semi-supernatural prophetess, who counsels him to take his father's hand. He understands this to imply grabbing his war club and slapping it around Oahu's high priest's head. He consents to lead a group of warriors on a bold attack of the high priest's temple, which results in Hana's capitulation and lessens the amount of bloodshed. The plan appeals to Kaikili. Here comes Chief of War's opening combat scene, which is incredibly grand in scope despite the fact that it can occasionally be hard to follow what's happening because everyone is dressed alike. That is, hardly at all. It's also quite bloodthirsty, and Kaiana occasionally kills people as brutally as possible by wrapping his blade all the way around their throat. One guesses that he is merely having fun because he was blind when he did it. In any case, it's fairly alpha. Playing insane, hulking outdoorsman is something Momoa excels at. In any case, Kaikili unsurprisingly doesn't follow the plan, thus everything goes horribly wrong. Rather, he appears on the shore and begins clubbing actual children to death, much like Anakin in the Jedi Temple. He then marches all the way to the Temple of Refuge's hallowed grounds, where he gives his forces orders to slaughter everyone inside, set the building on fire, and ceremoniously execute the young monarch. It goes without saying that Kaiana is furious, since he and the audience both see how effectively Kaikili has deceived him into capturing a neighboring kingdom for no apparent purpose. I'm fairly certain he'll look good at whatever he chooses to do next.